Our next level that we got guys presenting the award to Lifetime Achievement people is off the charts. This man needs no introduction. I'm not going to waste our time. Coach Wooten, come on up. Morgan Wooten, come on up and do what you do best, my friend. Now you're on the other end of the podium. You're on the other end of the mic. You receive so many of these. Now you get a chance to give one away.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you. Thank you very much. Doc, thank you very much. It's certainly great to be here tonight. And before I start with the honor of introducing Joe Gallagher, the all-time great, I would like to congratulate Juwan for the great season he had. I only missed one of your games. My grandson, Charlie Paul, was a starting center on that DeMatha football team this year, and he talked a lot about you, how great you were, and he said you definitely were the best offensive player in the team, no question about it. Of course, he was the, excuse me, I should say defensive because Charlie played offense. But he said, seriously, congratulate you. He said you were the greatest, you were the inspiration of that team, and I congratulate you. I'm delighted to be here tonight, and it's a very humbling opportunity to have the opportunity to introduce Joe Gallagher. I'm very fortunate. I have 16 grandchildren that keep me very humble. In fact, one of them is a true story, and Joe, excuse me because I know you've heard it, but my grandson Nick was in kindergarten, and they asked all the kids to write down their favorite sport, and he wrote down baseball. And the teacher said, why'd you write down baseball, Nick? He said, well, my father's a great baseball player. Show me how to be a great baseball player. She said, you know, I thought you might write down basketball. He said, oh, no, I don't know anybody that knows anything about basketball. And, you know, she said, well, some people, it's a true story. She said, some people think that your grandfather knows a little bit about basketball. She said, oh, no, I go to all his games, and he never gets in. True story. True story. Tonight, I get a chance to introduce and thank again the guy that gave me my start in the coaching profession. When you hear from Joe Gallagher, you'll realize you're hearing from one of the greats that ever lived. I don't think any coach alive coaching both football and basketball compiled the record that he compiled over his many years at St. John's High School. I don't think you could ever find anything to even begin to match it. And I'd like to kind of tell you how I met Joe. I met Joe when I was a sophomore in high school, and he was head coach at St. John's. Because my best friend, and we went on to be best men in each other's wedding, Dooney Waldron was his star running back. And so Dooney would bring me to all the St. John's games, sneak me on the team bus. Joe would find me, throw me off. We went to Newport, Rhode Island to watch Joe with his great teams play in the Eskett's up there with Jack George and all those great players. And I would sneak in and play cards with Jack. Joe would come in, find me, throw me out. So that was the way I met Joe Gallagher back when I was a sophomore in high school. And the years went by, and I started coaching at St. Joe's Orphanage as I was finishing up my years at Maryland. And my good friend Dooney Waldron came to me and said, Morgan, he said, Joe Gallagher wants to talk to you. I said, God, what have I done now? So I went over to see Joe, and Joe said, you know, I've seen you work with a team there at the orphanage, and I like the way you do it. How would you like to come to St. John's and coach our JV football and basketball team? I said, Joe, I would love it. The opportunity to work under you would be incredible. He said, you got to remember one thing. You'll be working for the Christian Brothers. And they take the vow of poverty, and they'll make you live by it. Those were the great memories as I look back. And, you know, I'll tell you one thing. Joe never taught me just about X's and O's or how to coach a football team. He taught me about the game of life. He taught me how to be a better person, hopefully. he told me how to work with young people. And he always told me this. He said, you know, you'll never live a perfect day unless you do something for someone who can never pay you back. And I watched Joe Gallagher do that day after day after day in the classroom as a magnificent history teacher, as the best football coach you ever saw, as an incredible basketball coach, later as a business partner with a basketball school that we started in 1961. I saw this guy leading that perfect life each and every single day. He told me two things I'll never forget, and it kind of goes along with what Doc said earlier and what London said earlier when they were talking. He said, remember this, a player will never forget their coach. May forget some of their teachers, may forget some of the people they went to school with, but they'll never forget their coach. And they'll never forget what kind of person that coach was. He said, don't ever forget that. And he said, if you're going to be a coach, no matter what the outcome of the game is, when it's over, you got to be willing to go down there and shake the other man's hand. And finally, he said, I'll tell you what else coaching's all about. 15, 20, 25 years later, when the young man comes back to you with a big smile and says, hi, coach, he said, that's what coaching's all about. You never forget your coach. You'll always remember them, the kind of person they were. You know, Joe always had a famous statement. He said, you know, I lost a few games here and there, but I never lost a party. And that's a true statement. He won every party, but in a good, honorable, decent way. But I'll tell you one thing, he won the game of life. He won it in the classroom. He won it on the football field. He won it on the basketball court. He won it each and every day with all the people he dealt with. He won the game of life. He was a role model for everyone that ever knew him and anything that he ever did. And today, as Joe's in his later years, he still never lost a party. Great father, great husband, a wonderful grandfather. Now I understand an incredible great-grandfather. And on it goes. There's only one Joe Gallagher. And if you get lucky when you get him up here tonight, when you get him going, you'll see what I'm talking about. You got to get him to sing the numbers song. You get him to sing the numbers song, you'll talk about it for the next couple of years. It is my honor to present to the man who gave me my start in the coaching career, the greatest of them all, Joe Gallagher.
Get any light?
Not much light, that's the only problem.
I thought they were going to have lights here. Not only don't we don't have lights, don't put me on so late. Hell, I'd be asleep by now. Well, I'll see what I can read. I'll tell you one thing. Steve Beck deserves a lot of credit for reviving the Touchdown Club. My wife used to say, "Where you been?" I said, "The Touchdown Club." She didn't like the place. But, you know, never be afraid to play against the best. Always play against the best, because that makes you better. When I got to be head coach, I went to hear Hunk Anderson, the line coach for the Notre Dame football team. And he was giving a lecture, and he said one thing: there's 3 things that make a great coach: material, better material, and the best material. I never gave so many breakfasts, dinners in my life as I did when I was head coach. I went to all the CYO banquets and everything else because we couldn't give scholarships. So how did Morgan do it? He got a sweet tooth. And he had a great ambition. And he and his wife, Kathy, deserve a lot of credit for having a wonderful family. I was married for 46 years, and my wife was very active in the Mothers Club at St. John's. And she didn't work until I got all the kids in high school. I didn't have any money. But anyhow, once they got in there, they were good. And how many coaches are lucky enough to be able to coach their own son? Very few. And I have one down here, Jay Gallagher. He played football, quarterback, and he played point guard on the basketball team. And we had a winning record, thank God. Because I was coaching 5 sports, 5 histories, and I hated world history. That's one reason I got the principal to hire Morgan. I said, he's a major in world history. I said, and the world history coach is leaving, you know, so he'll be good for that. He said, well, you know we don't give scholarships. I know, but he's coaching at an orphanage, St. Joseph's. And I said, he's got 2 good players. If we could just give him a little grant and aid, I said, it would help him get adopted. He said, are they good students? I said, of course they are. I don't want any dummies playing for me. But so they played, and they were 2 good kids, very good. They turned out well. But anyhow, you heard Morgan. Now you know why I hired him. He helped get a lot of kids come to St. John's. And when I started my camp in basketball, he asked if he could be a partner. I said, certainly, because he lived in Prince George County, and I lived in Montgomery County, and I figured between us, we ought to be able to get some players. So we made about 3 or 4 trips before we started the camp, just to get kids to come free. And that helped us. Finally, the camp grew, and Morgan says, Joe, I think instead of 75, we can handle 125. I said, let's do it. So he said, yeah, but next year, he said, I think we can go to 250. I said, let's do it. So then we finally got up to 460, I think. And I said, let's do it. So that's why we have our kids in college, right, Kathy? And hey, and I know Morgan's still working too. You see that brochure in there? Oh man, that's great. Everybody has a kid should send him to the basketball camp. You know, I'm staying at Grace House, which is an assisted living place, because I couldn't cook anymore. I wasn't a good cook anyhow. But anyhow, they send kids over there from St. John's to make up their hours that they have to make before they graduate. And one kid, Morgan, said he came to our camp 5 years in a row. I said, good. I said, what do you play? He was about 6'6". He said, soccer. I said, you gotta be kidding, man. So, but anyhow, I want to thank Steve and Morgan. Thank you for a nice introduction. We had 3 good years together, and then you go over to DeMatha, and he beats the hell out of me. Shouldn't do that. That's no way to show gratitude. Think of Morgan as a basketball coach. He was a good football coach, too. I coached football for 21 years, and I loved every minute of it. I really loved football. But the principal said to me, Joe, the athletic director has died, and we want you to be the athletic director. So I couldn't turn it down because I was running the camp. And I was making more money in 1 month than I was making in 12 months running that camp. Those Christian brothers, like Morgan said, they preach poverty, but they wanted me to practice it. So, but I want to thank all the players that played for me. Had a great group. Never had any problems with them. And we always said a prayer before we went, and we said a prayer when we came back. Not only did we win, but that nobody got seriously hurt. And thank God they did. So I just want to, and I want to thank the Touchdown Club for reviving this, because the Touchdown Club was so instrumental in helping to make football so popular in the District of Columbia. And I was fortunate enough to have 3 of them as assistant coaches for 3 years after they retired. Jim Ricker, Al DeMeo, and Weidensoul. And they did a good job. Because Mush Dabowski, who coached at Georgetown when Georgetown had good teams, not that they don't have a good team now. It's just a little different. Hey, George Washington was a little different too. Zuzu Stewart, who played guard, after the first play, you saw this helmet come off. He played the rest of the game without a helmet. He didn't live very long. Oh, that's the way it goes. So I've always said, Morgan's right. I've won some games and I've lost some games, but I've never lost a party. In fact, the ones I lost, I should never have scheduled. I wanted to play Altoona, because Altoona was supposed to be a very top team in football. So, and we could smell that hot dog with sauerkraut about 5 miles away. I had Pete Boynes with me then. He was my line coach. I only had one line coach. And we play in Altoona, and I said to one of the fellows on the sideline, I said, who are those 10 guys walking out on the field? He said, they're all coaches. I said, 10 assistant coaches? I said, well, they must spread them out. No, they're with the varsity. I said, man, that's great. So, and I looked over there, and he said, who do you want to go upstairs and be on the microphone? I said, nobody. I said, if he leaves, I won't have anybody to talk to. But I can tell you, I've enjoyed every moment that I coach football, and I hate to give it up, but that's the way it goes. You win some, you lose some, and some you should never schedule, right? But anyhow, Doc, you've done a great job. Very good. I see you on TV, and you're almost as good. I'll tell you later. All right.
Coach, I'll tell you what. I'll get better if you sing the number song.
Oh, you want me to sing the number song? My son said I shouldn't do this. But you all been sitting here, and you've been a very excellent audience. I lived in Foggy Bottom. That's where the numbers writers originated. That was before they were made legal. And we all played the numbers. We had to get them from the racetrack. The first 3 first three tracks, races. But you didn't have to bet much. You could bet a penny and get $6 back. But they had the Warren brothers, Emmett and Charlie, had control of the numbers racket. And so anyhow, their nephew was a heck of a ball player, Frank Cady. And his father used to cut my hair. And I went over and I said, Mr. Cady, we've got to get Frank to go to St. John's. He said, well, we're Episcopalian. I said, that's close enough. I said, what do you want, 2 rifles? We all had to wear uniforms at that time, the gray uniform. Every day we had inspection. So it was a good school, despite the wages. So, all right, now are you ready? Everybody has to help me out. When I go 101, that's what you say. When I say 202, 202, 303, right on up. Think you can handle that? Yeah. Okay. Now, who's this coming down the street? It's old Pete, the numbers man. The pencil and pad are in his hand. I got some extra cash today. I think I'll give this cat a play. Just to start off all the fun, put me down for a nickel on. 101. 101 sounds good to you. You better put a nickel on. 202. 202 sounds good to me. You better put a nickel on. 303. 303 is not so show. You better put a nickel on. 404. 404 is full of jive. You better put a nickel on. 505. 505 plays lots of tricks. I got you for a nickel on. 606. 606, I took it from a heaven. You better put a nickel on. 707. 707 is at the gate. Man, I got you for a nickel on. 808. 808 is always behind. You better put a nickel on. 909. Now, if that's all the numbers you're going to play, I think that I'll be on my way. Hey, wait a minute before you go. You better put a nickel on. Oh. And if I hit, I'll be back show, because I want you to play some ball.